Hello, I'm Cat, and yesterday this post went viral on Reddit, which says airport security is not holding back, but what it actually is a check-in machine at an American airport asking if they are a terrorist. As you can see, the person who posted this is leaning towards no, but isn't that strange? Because if you were someone terrible, wouldn't you also hit no and just lie to the machine? Well, this is something with a lot of philosophical implications, as well as some interesting legal ones that you might not have heard about, and let's dive into it today, starting with one of my favorite stories, which is the US Embassy summoning a baby for an interview because the granddad was applying for a visa waiver. In the case of America, it's called an ESTA. It costs $12. You have to fill out a whole form, and when he was filling out this form, there's this little set of questions. As someone who's filled out far too many ESTAs, let me tell you, it's fun. They ask you if you're a drug abuser or addict, or if you have any of the following diseases, and then they name syphilis and tuberculosis, and then they ask if you've done any serious crimes, if you've ever violated drug laws, and then they say, are you seeking to engage in, or have you ever engaged in, terrorist activities, espionage, sabotage, or genocide? And you might think it's so silly to put that question there. Sometimes I get call off the void and think, why don't I just put yes? But the reason they put this here is because it's bad enough to enter America under false pretenses, but to lie about it, interestingly, also becomes fraud. So there is a stronger legal case against you if you are not just a terrorist, but a lying terrorist, as the the comments here do, kind of joke about. Being a terrorist is one thing, but being a lying terrorist is another, and this actually makes sense on an ethical level too. So the legal argument is that they want to get you for fraud as well as whatever else. It makes it easier to deny your entry in future times, but also there is kind of a philosophical one, because obviously if you're a terrorist, you believe that your cause is so just and so right. Every terrorist who has died after explosion, if they died instantly, but if they died after, they're believing in their last moments, the world will finally understand my cause. I'm making such a huge difference. Maybe they think they're going to heaven. Bad news for them, but ultimately everyone believes that they are vindicated, but if you had to lie to do it, then you shouldn't feel that. This is a belief of Immanuel Kant. It's actually one of his most famous ones. It's the one that gets the most flack because he believes that lying to a murderer at the door is actually unethical. And why is this the case? Well, here is the actual the response to someone who challenged him. Basically, the German philosopher Kant goes so far as to maintain that it would be a crime to lie to a murderer who asked us whether a friend of ours whom he is pursuing has taken refuge in our house. It is a duty to tell the truth. Now, this seems silly that the concept of this duty is inseparable from the concept of your right, that you think you have the right for your friend not to be murdered, but you still have the duty to tell the murderer when they ask, oh yeah, is this person I'm looking for in your house? I am looking to murder them. You still should tell the truth in that case. This seems absolutely wild, and indeed lots of people poke fun at this, and nowadays the comparison, because he made that point in the 1890s, but we have some particular bad Germans who did actually go to people's house and ask them if they had people they'd like to murder in their home somewhere, and if they, the argument is that if they lied, they'd actually be responsible for the heinous acts committed, which is Immanuel Kant's argument, that actually, as strange as this is, that if by a lie you prevent someone who just is now bent on murder from committing the deed, you're legally accountable from the consequences that might arise from it. Whereas if you keep strictly to the truth, then public justice can hold nothing against you, whatever the unforeseen consequences might be. His argument being that, yeah, sure, you telling a murderer where your friend is that you don't want to be murdered is bad, but if you if you tell them the truth, then you can try and stop them afterwards. You can ask your neighbors, hey, someone said they want to murder my person, and in a way, you're relying on the murderer actually, the reason that this seems so silly is because you're relying on the person coming to your door saying, hey, I would like to murder your friend, which is what you want the murderer to do, right? You don't want the murderer to say, hey, I'm looking for Jim, your friend. I just want to say hi, I've got a birthday card for him. You would find that morally reprehensible, right? Maybe not as morally reprehensible as, murdering your friend when he said that, but it'd be better if the murderer at your door said, hey, I'm looking to murder you today. Please let me know how that goes. It seems wild, and it seems against the very philosophy that many of us are raised by, because if you have been taught that the truth is important, as many of us have, you learn very quickly in your very early stages that, yeah, the world actually expects us to lie all the time. Maybe not about being the T word, if we want to, say that so seriously, but the world doesn't ask you to lie about things like this very often, but the world makes you fill in all sorts of forms. I mean, for example, this form on the ESTA asks if you've ever, possessed or used illegal drugs, and everyone will hit no on that because they think it's the correct answer, but also the majority, if you look at, say, senior UK government officials, they travel to the United States all the time, despite having conceded, publicly or privately, that they have in fact possessed, used, or distributed drugs. The truth is that although some of these things, the lie about if you've committed genocide, or if you've done a serious crime, if you have something on your record, then you probably should tell them about that. But if you've done something that you believe no one's going to find out about anyway, you see it as a box-ticking exercise for the both of you. And so as a result, the "Are you a terrorist?" box, you actually should answer correctly. If you believe that your cause is so just, then you should believe that people will follow along with you. And if you think your cause is so unjust that you have to lie to get it done, then I think that that is a sign you're a bad person. And sure, is like the person being a bad person at your front door maybe isn't worried about that, but if we all tell the truth all the time, we create a more just world. Whereas if we all lie for fear of what might come, because let's be honest, if someone actually came to my front door and said, "Look, I'm here to murder your friend," I would laugh them off, right? I wouldn't actually assume they were there to do it. If everyone could actually, because you assume that when someone says something like that they are joking. It is very, very hard to trust people because you assume that everyone has motives behind what they are saying. And so the argument that if we tell a lie, we are actually responsible for that lie's consequences before a civil court and maybe pay the penalty for it is actually a really good way to base our legal world on. But if we're not going to base our legal world, as we sort of do a fraud, should we not at least base our emotional world off this exact same principle? Should we not say that we should attempt to tell the truth all the time, and we should believe in our hearts that even, because if I did see someone with a knife and they seemed very serious about murdering someone who was close to me, I would struggle very hard to tell them the truth. But shouldn't I aim to do precisely that? Shouldn't a useful example of this in my personal life is at one point I was going. I think I was in like a graveyard. Having a few drinks. I don't know why there was a graveyard with a club attached to it, but there was. And I spoke to a girl at one point, and she was like, "Oh yeah, what's your like first honest impression of me?" And I just said something about the nose or something. I actually tried to be very honest about it. She was like, "No one's actually responded that before, And I was like, "Oh, what about in the reverse?" And what's interesting is everyone makes a huge judgment of you based on their first impression of meeting you, but they don't tell you what that first impression is. Because it's considered rude, right? We have lots of manners and good things that get in the way of telling the truth, as well as lots of fear of consequences, and all of that makes a world that is more dishonest. And is that world good? Well, in an ideal world, airport security wouldn't have to be we scan people with metal. They say airport security, but this is a check-in. Airport security shouldn't have to be scanners and multiple layers of document checks. Airport security in an ideal world would be as simple as this one button where we ask people, "Are you intending to harm people on your flight?" And if you say yes, then we send you to the check lane to see if you're telling the truth. And if you say no, we trust you more broadly. The world is suffering from a lack of trust right now. And if we look at the big story, try and find out right now. Genuinely, do you believe in your heart that you know what the goal is for the Trump tariffs right now? If we click on the New York Times, they'll give me a different answer to NBC, which might be different to the BBC. And this is, as much as this is like the big story in the world, the truth is, there are a very small number of people who can actually say it. And if we look into the actual press release from the White House, they say it's a national emergency. I would prefer if they said, okay, so this has been going on for like 40 years. This isn't a national emergency, but we have to say it's a national emergency so that we can do this as the executive branch rather than the legislative. I would prefer that all politics be committed actually honestly that way. If the president could say out loud, "Look, we're going to have a 2-year dip. It's going to suck for people real bad, but after that 2 years, I think it will be fine," then that would be something, right? But instead, no one actually knows, is the plan to cut short? Is the plan to play the long game? And to make sure that this doesn't just seem like a political one-sided attack, the same is true for politicians on the other side. If you read about someone who supports free university, or what they'll say is that we should get rid of student debt. If we cancel all loans, we could forgive all outstanding federal and private loans, and we'd get a 1 trillion boost to our economy over a 10-year period. Do you know where that 1 trillion boost would come from? It would be from the government spending the money. It's not that, I feel like basically politicians are not able to be fully honest about their politics. If we would like to take money from these people to give particularly to, graduates, in the case of this policy of cancelling student loans. It is, oh yeah, actually that would be giving money to the people who haven't paid off their student loans. If you had gone through the hardship of paying off your student loans, or you hadn't gone to university at all, you wouldn't benefit from that $1 trillion. That would exclusively go to the highest earners, but you couldn't say that because that's not the popular policy. That won't get you elected. The same is true for this man. The same is true, sadly, for the bad people. They are the next person who enters the United States under bad terrorism pretenses probably is going to lie about it. And isn't that a shame? That's the point I want to end this video with. But yeah, I think we should trial. Maybe a country should. Maybe the US should give this a shot. If we're going, if we're trying out new things anyway, let's just try honesty-based security, and let's see how long it is until it fails. I would love to see that. Let me know down below if you would like to as well. And now, for the sake of being honest, I'm making this video in part because I think honesty is one of the most interesting and core values to me, but also in part because I think that this is hugely interesting. If this went viral on Reddit, there is a small chance that it goes viral in this video, and if this video goes viral, I will make some additional money, and I like money because I can use it to buy things. I can buy goods and services, including travel to countries, including the United States. It's amazing what money can do. I would like more of it. And if you would like to give me more money, well, hopefully getting a better service for yourself, consider subscribing to this channel. I don't think it really has a theme at this point, but that's half of the fun, isn't it? Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Yeah, probably. And to continue my honesty, second channel, I don't care. Goodbye.